The Wisconsin Realtors Association is pleased to present this virtual conference session entitled 3 More Key Success Strategies, Proactive, Purposeful, Profitable Lead Generation. We are very pleased to welcome all of you to this session. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Pam Skoleski. Pam, welcome to the program.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I'm Pam Skoleski, broker-owner for Prism Real Estate in Stevens Point. I'm also a WRA Real Estate School trustee. One of the responsibilities of the Real Estate School is to provide interesting and informative educational programs to help in your business. Today's session is full of valuable information guaranteed to help your business, so I hope you take advantage of it and the knowledge of our speaker. Feel free to ask questions at any time in the chat box, and I'll do my best to work with our speaker to answer them during our time together. If we are unable to answer all your questions, we will respond after the program. So, without further delay, let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Ed Hatch. As president of Ed Hatch Seminars Incorporated, Ed has spoken to over 100 audiences each year since 1990. He has been a featured speaker at the last 28 consecutive NAR conventions, at 10 CRS celebrations, and has spoken on the topics of negotiating, business and strategic planning, customer service, and leadership. He's spoken throughout the U.S., the United Kingdom, Europe, Canada, New Zealand, Africa, South America, Singapore, Scandinavia, and Malaysia. So please welcome Ed.
Welcome, everybody. And as Pam mentioned, I just want to reiterate, sometimes in this format it is easier or more appropriate for you to ask a question while I'm on a particular topic or on a particular slide. Certainly I will leave the last 5 minutes as we were all encouraged to do in case you've got any questions that you'd like to ask. But if there's a question that you have that pops up about a specific bit of information that I'm covering at a specific time, and we can orchestrate it in such a way that I can respond right away, that would be terrific. My email address, and I say this solely because at the end of the last conversation, which ended like 10 minutes ago, there were a number of questions, and I tried to get through it quickly, and I told them that, you know what, I had to get off so we could get back on this next session. I gave my email address is edhatch@aol.com, and yes, I said AOL. So, let's all just get comfortable with that. But if at the end of this session, if we run out of time and you have more questions, you can always just shoot me an email and get to me that way. The question is, I'm assuming that you're seeing slide 1 as I am. Have you ever found yourself sitting in a position like this at your desk or just simply at home? Sorry, I'm giggling because this tickles me because more than once, many more times than once, in the decades I spent selling houses, I got to tell you, I found myself at my desk with my head buried in my hands thinking, what the heck am I doing? What we're going to try to do in the 40 minutes we've got is to address how to make sure this never happens again. And I'm going to give you some specifics, clearly some specific strategies and action steps that you can begin to take immediately. And each of those will be specific to the real estate profession, but they all come from at least some guiding principles just from business planning. The 3 principles, if you've got the outline in front of you, there's 5 pages. If you page through that before we got on, you'll see there are 3 key elements under which there are some specific applications that we're going to address during the 40 minutes. They are, first you clarify, then you focus, and then you control. The 3 key principles that are linear and logical and proactive are clarify, focus, and control. Somebody just hit my slide and I wasn't ready to go there. So here we go. Let's put this into context. This is specifically about lead generation and marketing, but lead generation and marketing taught just for the sake of itself is out of context. That's not how successful businesses or successful agents run their business, run their either private or corporate businesses. It's bigger than that. What I've discovered traveling all over the world now for the last 3 decades and working with corporate entities as well as estate agents and real estate agents, is that long-term success is never an accident. It's always a result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution. And if you're going to write any of that down, write down skillful execution. 90% of all success has got nothing to do with what you know. I mean, I've been a teacher all my life, first in public schools, then in real estate, then in the corporate world. And knowledge, sorry to disappoint, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only power if you use it. The goal of education is not knowledge, it's action. So skillful execution. It's the wise choice. Successful people, successful entities make a wise choice from the many choices that are available to them. And they always make those choices or those decisions based on hard fact and data, based on cumulative knowledge from the masters of whatever craft they happen to be practicing. So what we're going to address in the time we've got are proactive, purposeful, profitable strategies that are forward-thinking. The first master, if you will, for business planning gives us at least the first general principle or guiding principle. Edwards Deming said, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you may be, if you're new and you don't know how to reach success, it's got to do with process, systems, organization, application. If you've been at it for a while and find yourself stuck at a particular level of production and not clear on how to get to the next level or why you're not getting to the next level, perhaps it's simply that you haven't figured this or contemplated the process to create that next level of success. My definition, to keep it simple, is a process is a series of well-thought-out, choreographed steps taken to achieve a specific outcome. In this particular case, we want to create a more successful, more profitable business and not ever find ourselves sitting at a desk with our head buried wondering what else we could do other than real estate. To start the process, we're going to clarify. Here's what we clarify. Step number 1, what's the product or service? What is your product or service? If you were with me in the last session, then forgive me for repeating this. If you weren't, then here's what we sell. Here's what we get paid to do. Here's the talent we bring to the table that buyers and sellers see valuable and therefore willing to pay for it. We help them make decisions for themselves that are in their best interest that without us there as the catalyst, they probably could not or would not make. We're persuasive. We're influential. We know how to negotiate with people and for people. We help people make decisions about the buying and selling of real property, and those decisions ultimately enhance either their economic well-being and or their quality of life. That's what we get paid to do. We don't sell computers, we don't sell web pages, we don't sell cars. We sell a particular talent, and that talent is persuasiveness, influence, the ability to negotiate with and or for people, the ability to help them. With that clarified, now we need to clarify, as businesses do, step number 2, so what's the target? What's the best target client for that? Who would be the most suitable if we're going to do this successfully and long term? Who do we want to put ourselves in front of as much as often as we possibly can? There are 3 kinds of customers or potential clients you can market yourself to. This is somewhat interactive, and I'm going to just have to assume, to some degree, that you would respond the way most audiences have responded throughout the United States over the course of the last few decades that I've taught business planning, strategic planning, or the referral marketing plan. Of these 3, these are the 3. You can market to strangers, try to get the attention of strangers. You can market specifically for referrals, or you can market specifically for repeat, or some combination thereof. But those are the only 3. Your marketing is going to be focused on one or more of those. Based on that, and based on the talent or the product or service we bring to the table, which of the 3 is the best target audience? If what we're selling is the ability to influence people, which of those 3 would be most receptive to our influence, to our advice, to our help, Who's going to be most likely to accept our opinion of fair market value? Who's going to be most receptive to our fee for the services we provide? And again, I'm going to assume, and you can always throw into the chat box that perhaps a disagreement or a question about it, but certainly repeat customers and clients have to best suit that target client. Repeat customers are coming back because they trust us. They're coming back because we've worked with them before, and they respect our opinion, and therefore are less likely to debate it. They come back and they know what we charge, and they know that we're worth it, so they're less likely, although they may on occasion, they're less likely to question our fee. If there's a problem with that is that in our profession, unlike perhaps a restaurant where they may come in once a month or once a week so you can provide the service again, most of our buyers and sellers throughout the United States buy a house and don't buy another one for 7 to 12 years, depending on where you live in the United States. So certainly repeats the best target client, but can't be the only one. Of the other two, I would suggest that in most cases, and I'm going to assume this too, referrals would be the next best target customer. And by the way, just to clarify, referrals are strangers as well. However, these strangers have been told by somebody who they know, like, and trust to come and work with us. So they walk in the door at least predisposed to trust us. We can mess it up once they're there, because once they're there, they don't care anymore about what somebody else told them. Now we're in front of them face to face. But at least they walk in predisposed to trust us. The least trusting, and reasonably so, are strangers. They don't know who we are. They don't know what we do. They've never worked with us before. But with that in mind, repeat and referral as being the top two, and stranger being third in that priority, we go back to the steps. Would it be viable for us to create a business that is strategically focused on repeat and referral business? By the way, the strangers will come. We're not ignoring them altogether. If you end up with 20 listings and you put for sale signs in front of them, certainly people will drive up and down the street, see the sign, and call you. This isn't about doing one and not the other. This is about strategic focus. This is leading us to part number two. Is it viable for us to focus upon target customers that are specifically repeat and referral? Which raises the question. It's the year 2019. How do buyers and sellers find their way to a real estate agent? In the year 2019, based on all your information, all your knowledge, all the classes you've taken, how do buyers and sellers find their way to their real estate agent? For that, we're going to look at, back to that definition, real hard fact and data. We're going to look back to objective demonstrable criteria and not just make this a hunch. This is a business. We're running a business. This isn't as real estate agents individually or as a corporate entity. When we're running a business, we're going to make our decisions based on hard fact and data. And we're going to begin with this. Since 1995, this is how buyers use. This is the numbers and percentages of buyers using the internet in their home search. Now, I can tell you, again, because it's me talking and you're just sort of listening there, that in most classes, when I ask the question, how do most clients find their way to a real estate agent, the people who shout anything at all shout the internet because they've seen this. And that's a statistical error. This may be true, but it isn't necessarily true. Just because potential clients go to the internet to gather information to begin their home search, which in fact they do, that's not the question I asked. The question I asked is, how do they find their agent? And one doesn't necessarily follow the other. The only way we would know is to look one more time at hard fact and data. NAR statistics over the last 3 decades, but these numbers I'm using here are over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, 61% of all buyers found their way to a real estate agent either they were repeating or they were referred by somebody. Only 10% found their agent using the internet or social media. I'm not suggesting it doesn't work. I'm suggesting that it's not the primary source for how they find an agent. They're looking for somebody who they know, like, and trust, or somebody who they know knows, likes, and trusts. Only if those don't exist, will they rely on the internet solely? At least 90% of them. And by the way, sellers, 71% of all sellers found their agent, and of course this is reasonable, they used an agent before. So the repeat percentage has to go up, and the referral percentage probably goes up a bit too. Only 4% of all sellers find their agent via the internet or social media. So based on objective, demonstrable criteria, it's viable to run a business and focus your marketing and lead generation specifically to and tailored to repeat and referral business. Now, I want to address this single issue too because this comes up a lot. I've done a lot of coaching in the last 15 years, and the numbers of people who I've coached, which in 15 years is probably thousands at this point, almost always begin with this comment. Most of their business already is repeat and referral. So they need something else. And if that's what you're thinking, here's a little critical thinking issue for you. This is a specific example. Walt in Alameda, California, years ago I coached him. And I said to him, more proactive, more purposeful, more forward-thinking about repeat and referral. And he said, Ed, 94% of my $12 million business is repeat and referral. After 18 years in the business, 94% of his business was repeat and referral. And I said, I understand that, but it would be helpful if you were more proactive, more purposeful. And, of course, I didn't get through that sentence before he said, Ed, he said, for the last 8 years of my 18 years in the business, 94% of my business has been repeat and referral. I need something else. I need something new. I need something other than that, which may be true. However, and this is your assignment, this is for you to do perhaps tonight, sooner rather than later. I said, Walt, I want you to run the people in your database, the people with whom you've worked and you kept track of and record of. He came up with approximately 600 names. So do that. When you have the opportunity, look in your database. Look at the numbers of people you've got sitting in that database. And then I asked him to do this, and I would have you do this too. I said, put a check mark next to anybody who's repeated or referred on a regular basis in the last 3 to 5 years. How many people have repeated or referred in the last 3 to 5 years? And when he did that, he came up with 52. Now, by the way, just to sum this up and do it quickly because we've only got like 40 minutes, is 94% of a $12 million business being repeat and referral is excellent. However, if you look at those numbers, are you not seeing what I'm seeing? If you were coaching this guy, if you were teaching this guy, if you were just trying to help him make a decision that was in his best interest, do you not see that there's another 550 people, give or take, in his database with whom he worked who aren't repeating or referring? And the reason that's happening is some of them would never repeat or refer, but some number of them, he just proactively, purposefully, nor with forward thinking, did he work those people. Consider the wealth of business sitting idle in his database, that if only he went back and spent hardly any money at all to recapture, as opposed to going into the world and spending 15 to 20% more money to try to get the attention of strangers, who, by the way, we've already suggested is probably the worst of all the clients you could possibly have. Do this. Do it as soon as you can. You should see these numbers for yourself. You don't know me. You can't even see me. You're just hearing my voice. So no kidding. The wise choice of many choices based on hard fact and data. Take a look. See what kind of business is sitting idle, perhaps in your database right this minute. Which brings us to step number 4, which brings us to strategic focus. Okay, so if number 1, the service or product we have is we give advice, influence, negotiation, and the best target customer or client are those most receptive to that advice, which is repeat and referral, and it's viable based on hard fact and data, now we need to put some systems together. We need to figure out what exactly we're going to do to generate that business, more of that business. And then we go back, I go back to another master. Peter Drucker is the godfather of strategic planning. He wrote all the books on strategic planning. People refer to him constantly. His basic principle is outcome thinking, what I just called strategic focus. Outcome thinking is So here's where we are. Here's what we want. We want more business. And we want to be proactive about it. And the business is specific. It is repeat and referral. 2 principles under that basic concept. Number 1, create new clients through existing clients. Create new clients, because we want new clients, but create them through existing clients and be proactive and purposeful about that. Here's how we're going to do that. We're going to raise the issue of referrals, and we're going to teach people how to send them. I can tell you, just to preface this, I've been coaching people, like I said, for 15 years, with rare exception, and there have been exceptions, but with rare exception, most of the people I've coached have bumped their business by 30% just based on what we're going to discuss for the next 3 or 4 minutes. So listen up. We want to raise the issue of referrals, and we want to teach people how to do it. There are some key points to this. Number 1, timing. When is it an appropriate time to raise the issue of referrals and teach them how to send it? I would suggest to you that the best time is as early as possible. Your best, most immediate source of referrals, are your current buyers and sellers. Because of something that's predictable about human behavior, which is called top-of-the-mind consciousness. As real estate agents, I am sure you know this already. If you let a buyer or seller talk long enough, they will tell you everything you need to know. Just let them talk. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you've had this happen at least once, if not more. At least more than one. If you let them talk long enough, they'll tell you stuff you don't even really want to know about because they can't help themselves. Top-of-the-mind consciousness is whatever's on the top of their mind at any given moment is what falls out of their head into their mouth. That's what they talk about. Now take that and translate it into the process, into either the buying or selling process. When is a buyer or a seller more likely to be in the world talking about buying and selling houses? While they're immersed in the process. So as early as you can, the minute for me that they demonstrated that they trusted me, I believe I have earned the right, and we have to do that. We need to earn the right. But what's the trigger mechanism? For me, I believe I must have done something right if they gave me their listing. It's not like I have to do something right. Certainly I still have to do something right. I have to get their household. But I've done something right so far. I've met with them, I've created rapport with them, I've done an inspection with them, I've done a presentation, and they've trusted me enough to give me the most important thing they're ever going to sell. That, to me, is a trigger mechanism. If that's too early for you, I want to suggest this, I want to preempt this. If you wait till you get to settlement, and because you think that's demonstrated your ability to sell their house, you also will have lost the window of opportunity, because when they go to settlement, they're done buying or selling a house, and they're pretty much done talking about it. So as early within that window of opportunity as possible. The dialogue for that is actually, that I'm going to go through quickly with you, is in your outline, which raises the second issue. Besides timing, delivery. Well, in terms of delivery, there are 2 other sub-points. Number 1, it needs to sound authentic. I don't expect you to say what I say exactly how I say it, but there are key phrases or words. So if this is the first time you're saying it, read through it a couple times, see if you can get comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with it, certainly go back and make it more authentic. Make it sound as if you're saying it. And rehearse it enough, number 2, so it sounds like casual conversation. It shouldn't sound like something you just learned at a seminar someplace. The dialogue itself, again, is in your outline. Early in this presentation, I'm going to say to them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I need to ask you a favor. Before I go, I need to ask you a favor, but only if you're comfortable with this. Here's what I've discovered selling houses now for the last 15 years in Wisconsin. I've discovered that my buyers and sellers go into their world and talk about it everywhere. They get on the phone and talk about it. They go to work and talk about it. Sometimes they walk up and down the street and talk to their neighbors about it. And at least once, if not twice, in one of those conversations over the next 60 to 90 days, somebody says to them, you know what, I'm thinking about buying, or I'm thinking about selling a house too. Here's what I need you to do when that happens. I need you to stop in the conversation. I need you to tell them a little bit about me and why you decided to choose me to be your real estate agent. And then here comes the big favor, and one more time, only if you're comfortable with this. I want you to tell them to expect a phone call from me within the next 48 to 72 hours. And then with their permission, I need you to call me so I can make that call. I'm pausing here just to let that sink in. Do you understand what I just did? At the appropriate time, because I've earned the right, when I sense it's appropriate, I've raised the issue of referrals, and I've taught them how to do it. If your experience is anything like mine, just passing out my business card doesn't get me the call. Even when they tell me, I met somebody at work, they're thinking about buying a house, I just gave them your card, you should get a call sometime soon. More times than not, I did not get that call. So I'm being, here we go, there's the words again, proactive and purposeful. Raise the issue of referrals when the timing's appropriate, and deliver this dialogue in such a way as it is both authentic and sounds like casual conversation. And it will bump your business. So my experience with the thousands of people I've coached, for the most part, as much as 30%. People, believe it or not, don't know they're supposed to send you referrals. And when they do, they don't know how to do it. Which brings us to point number 2. Keep the client coming back to do more business. So number 1, create new clients through existing clients. Number 2, outcome, keep the client coming back to do more business, as in repeat. And here's, again, hard fact and data. 88% of all buyers over the last decade, 88% of all buyers said that they would use the same agent again, but only 11% ever did. That's from a business point of view, that's just a terrible number and indicates a terrible problem. 85% of all sellers said they would use their agent again, and over the last decade, only 25% ever did. So one more time again, repeat business. This is a mistake apparently we're making somehow, somewhere. 2 things. Number 1, you need to create a customer service package. We've inferred, if nothing else, that if you send me a referral, I will take extraordinary care of whoever you send me. Well, you better do that. Otherwise, this whole thing comes crashing down. This is a whole other seminar altogether. The putting together a customer service, extraordinary customer service, that's a whole, again, session that I do. It's sometimes a half day, sometimes a full day. So we can't address all these phases of a customer service package, but we're going to address the last one, the settlement and the immediately following program, because that directly influences and affects the customer coming back. So again, I say, create a customer service package, break your package down into each aspect or facet of it, determine what your buyer or seller is expecting of you, and try to figure out a way to not only meet but exceed those expectations. Extraordinary customer service. In addressing the last phase, immediately following, you'll see in the outline the immediately following program, which I'm going to go through quickly with you because it's already, again, in your outline. Day number 1, certainly it's settlement, or the day after you should stop by with a gift, something that's valuable and relevant. And there's 2 words. If you're taking notes, you should write those down and put a circle around it. Something, first of all, any gift will wow them a little bit. But the more personal it is, and the more valuable and or relevant it is to their situation, the greater impact it will have. On day number 5, we would send a letter, a thank you letter. My particular letters, this particular one was a Toto letter. The Toto letter, just to address how to best format a business letter to someone with whom you become friendly. A Harvard Business School will tell you there are 4 key elements. We're going to address 3 now, and we're going to address 1 a little bit later. First of all, for some reason, and they don't know why, but they know it for a fact, that people will open up a letter, and even knowing it came from you, will look at the bottom of the letter first. So you should have something that they refer to as a signature. Again, Harvard Business School. Mine used to be your realtor. It can be anything like that. You're a real estate agent, your friend in real estate agent, your real estate consultant, if that's a legal phrase you can use in the state of Wisconsin, but something you sign off with all the time. Then they're going to go to the top to see if there's anything interesting to talk about, what gets their attention. I like quotations. Lots of people like quotations. I've discovered lots of my buyers and sellers like quotations. So each of my letters started with a different quote. If you want to try to build your own letters, start the process by going to creativequotations.com. creativequotations.com, where all you need to do is put in the search engine a word or phrase and get quotes about it, as in the word home, and you'll get 25 quotes, give or take, with the word home in it, as in Toto, we're home. And this is my room, and you're all here, and I'm not going, and there's no place like home. The body of the letter, the word that Harvard uses is concise. Here's the point. You should have a point. Either personally or professionally, the letter should have a point, and you should get to it as quickly as you possibly can. If you want to call it a note instead of a letter, that's fine. But they don't want to read 2 or 3 pages of fluff to discover that it wasn't worth reading 2 or 3 pages because there was no point. If you've got a point, get to it as quickly as you possibly can. On day number 10, if you're doing this all by yourself, which I did originally, but then business got really big and I started using an assistant. We're going to call and see if we might drop by for a moment or two on our way to another appointment perhaps to make sure everything that they're in, that they're comfortable, everything's okay with the house. On day number 14, we stop by again for a moment or two. If you say you're coming to visit, you're going to get a lot of no's because they think they're going to have to clean the house, bake you a cake. Just say you're stopping by for a moment or two on your way someplace else. And after you've dropped by and seen them personally, you follow that up with a note. You're going to hear me talk about this later. Mixed media, spaced repetition, mixed media are keys to marketing. Arrange the drop-by, that's a phone call. Do the drop-by face-to-face, follow it up with a note. Spaced repetition, mixed media will have greater impact. On day number 21, what we would do is we would call. I would call when I was doing it on my own, or my assistant started doing it when I had an assistant. After they had an opportunity to move in and say, this is Bonnie, I'm Ed Hatch's personal assistant. We met during the process. If you're moved in and you're comfortable and you would like us to, I would like to come out, perhaps take a picture of you standing in front of your brand new house. And from that, we're going to create a postcard and send that out to your 25 to 50 closest friends as a change of address. All we would need to do that is your permission to come take the picture, and of course, the names, addresses, and phone numbers of your 25 to 50 closest friends. Then she would send out the American Dream Letter. This is a setup for something that I was reluctant to do, but one of the benefits of an assistant is they make you do stuff you know you should. You just don't like it, or you don't want to spend the time setting it up. On day number 45, having sent that letter, the American Dream Letter, she would call to see if they would like us to do a housewarming party for them, now that they've been in the house for almost 60 days, or if they were sellers and moving out of the area, if they'd like us to throw a going-away party for them. Excuse me. On day number 60, the A campaign began. This immediately following process, this step-by-step, proactive, purposeful, linear, logical process, this all by itself will wow the heck out of people, even if they don't take you up on the card, and even if they don't take you up on the housewarming party. In a relationship, personal equity is created and maintained and built upon by offering something that is valuable and is more than is expected. Whether they take you up on it or not, it's the offer of something valuable. And with that done, we move to the next step. Now we need to stay in the flow. This is where we lose them. This is very likely, more often than not, in the next 7 years, if we don't stay in the flow, if we don't do something on a regular, consistent basis that is valuable and relevant, we're going to lose these people when they're to another real estate agent they bump into at their daughter's soccer game, or at a dinner at their country club, or some other event where you know there's going to be another real estate agent, and it's likely it's not going to be us. So we want to find a way and create a strategy to stay in the flow. That strategy is the program. Here's a program that I have my people do. It consists of 12 written contacts, 3 phone calls, 2 visits, and 1 client appreciation event each year. And what you can see buried in here is both written and personal contacts. So we've got mixed media and spaced repetition. 1 letter a year, 3 phone calls in a year, 2 visits in a year, and 1 client appreciation event. Mixed media and spaced repetition, the key ingredients to an effective marketing campaign. In terms of written contacts, the letters, again, should have your realtor or whatever your signature is. There should be a quote at the top, perhaps. The body of the letter should be concise. It should have a point you should get to it. And the 4th element, which I said I would come to later, is this. Handwrite a PS on the bottom of the letter. Handwrite a PS on the bottom of the letter. To heighten the awareness about a product or a service, you must find a gentle, soft way to repeat that message. To heighten the awareness about a product or a service, you have to find a way to repeat the message. So on the bottom of this letter that was valuable and or relevant, just write PS and something like, just what I wrote, you can use it if you want or modify it. Thank you for your continued trust and referrals. By the way, this is for the sake of this session. Do not circle or underline the word referrals. I've had people in classes who get letters and send them, and they're convinced that if they just sent letters once a month that were valuable and relevant, they'd get way more referrals than they did in the next 12 months than they did in the last 12 months. But don't circle or underline the word referrals. Just make sure you use it in the PS. In terms of personal contacts, there should be, we're going to itemize those under the heading of phone contacts. You should give it hard edges, which is a time management term. You should time block when you're going to make those calls, and you should always follow up the calls with a note, as in mixed media. For the visits, the easiest way to accomplish this is do it around some special occasion. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Memorial Day. It should consist of 3 steps. There should be a phone call, so your people know you're stopping by for a moment or two with something. You should do the stop by with some sort of a gift or something that you're handing out. And after there should be a note to follow that up. One more time. We're looking to get as many touches in as possible that are reasonable and relevant. The client appreciation event. Client appreciation event is done just like the housewarming party. You're going to send an invitation. Here are the 5 steps. Send an invitation. Invitation has an RSVP. In my experience doing it personally and working with people, coaching people, people think it's nice, but they almost never RSVP, which gives you or your assistant the opportunity to, number 2, make the phone call. Sent you an invitation, just sold your friends a house, or client appreciation event we'd like to invite you to, but we didn't hear back from you. If you or your assistant speaks to them on the phone, you or your assistant, whoever made the call, should do a little handwritten note to follow up on the call. Then the event itself, whatever it is you choose to do, and then some sort of a follow-up after the event, thanks for coming, something along those lines. Critical mass. I love this. Sorry, I just really like this little picture here. If you don't know what critical mass is, this bubble is a critical mass. Critical mass is the moment at which something is about to explode. I want to just give you some idea of how this works out. This is how this will work. Implemented consistently, and all the elements done consistently, what you will discover is this. So I finished working with a woman in New Jersey the end of 2017. We did the coaching for a year. Without doing all the details, we came up with a number of A customers, a number of people that needed to send her 1 or perhaps 2 referrals so she would hit an income target, so she could make the kind of money so that she could go home and be happy. The number we came up with was 30. So by the end of the year 2017, she had 30 of those customers. Again, quickly. Assuming each of those 30 sent 1 or 2 referrals, that would mean in the year 2018, which just finished up, she would and did have 38 referrals. With a customer service package, assuming she implemented it, and assuming 30% of the 38 were just wowed by the customer service, she would add 11 new A customers to her numbers, which would give her 41 A customers by the end of 2018. 41 people sending 1 or 2 referrals in the year 2019. That would be this year. If that happens, she should get 51 referrals. If she gets 51 referrals and she does a really good job implementing her service package, and 30% of those 51 love her and wish to become and do become an A customer or client, at the end of that year, she'll have 56 A customers. And if, without doing year by year, if you look at this, you'll see how successful businesses grow using repeat and referral business, doing it incrementally and doing it consistently. Now, these may not be numbers you ever want. And certainly if you do have numbers like this, it creates a whole other set of problems, which would be, the problem of how in fact do you maintain this without an assistant. But this is how and why this works. The last step of this, of course, in keeping with that, is how do we control it? The simple version is maps. How do you control it? You itemize, you systematize. Here's what we did. We clarified repeat and referral business as the best proactive, purposeful business and most suitable to what our product or service is. We created strategic focus and systems, processes, upon which, step by step, you could implement and increase your business without it costing you a whole lot of money. But to control that kind of business in your mind, you must create maps. You need to get it. Your brain is a great place for creating ideas, but not a great place for storing it. So the letter system for a year should be formatted ahead of time. Your phone calls, you should know who, at the end of this week, you're calling next week and what the topics are going to be of that conversation. Your listing in progress, which includes your immediately following program, should be itemized. It should be systematized. It should be made into a checklist. To really control a lot of business without things falling through the cracks so you can maintain the consistency, you need to have it written down, and I refer to that as maps. We clarify, right? We focus, and we control. My time is just about up, so let me ask you before I sign off, are there questions that you have for me? And I see a couple. Send your questions. Where did you get the graph about buyer use of internet? That came from, the source is NAR. Every year NAR puts out a book called The Home Buyer and Seller Profile. Comes out in November. Of course, it can't be for that particular year. So in November of 2019, the statistics were for, the numbers were for, the year 2018. And because I've taught for NAR for decades, every year I've received the book, and every year I've gotten the updated statistics. Home buyer, home seller profile. You can find that on the NAR website. So I'm seeing another one, but I can't see it all. I'll check with Mr. Hatch. I'm not sure what that's about. So let me see if I can. There we go. Let me scroll down, and I've got at the end of the session. Okay, love the idea of offering to send out change of address. Man, this is a great way to build a database. It's a great way to build a database. So I'm just going to reinforce that. Seriously, if you have an assistant, not only does she send the postcards, then she calls the people up. Hi, my name's Bonnie. I work for Ed Hatch. We just sold your best friends, Kevin and Mary Baker, a house. They just moved into it, and we promised we would send them a change of address card. Just send it. Want to make sure you received it. You okay with that? Did you get it? And then you, if you're doing it, or your assistant, follows up with a note. And looking for anything else, how do we access the handouts? I think they may have explained that at the beginning. I think that in the box that says links, I think if you go to links, you will find the outlines and you will find the overheads. Any other questions before I sign off?
I think we're wrapped up.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This virtual conference session has now concluded. Please close this window to exit out of the session and return to the main conference site to choose the next session to attend from Day 1 agenda page. Thank you, and you may now disconnect.